Why are YouTube videos always so very awkward to start? I don't know. Hi, hello, and welcome to this week's video and to my channel. If you're new here, make sure that you're subscribed and you click that notification bell so you can see each time I upload a new video. So this week I have for you a sketchbook tour with not one, but two sketchbooks. So one of these is my ugly sketchbook, for lack of a better term. And then my nicer-ish sketchbook, this one was May through July of this year. And I'll talk a little bit about the difference in those two sketchbooks, why I typically have two sketchbooks going at all times, and how I kind of make some decisions around what goes into a sketchbook versus a finished product, and just how I use sketchbooks in general and what I think that process does for me as an artist. I will say that I think there is no right or wrong way to sketchbook. This is just my process and what that looks like for me. So, without further ado, let's get into it. So, the first sketchbook I'm going to be talking about is my ugly sketchbook. So, I actually started this one in 2021 when I was taking doing my graphic design certificate. So I apologize. I do not know where most of these stickers are from, mostly from either local shops, or I can tell you that one is a free one that I got with a candle order from Patty Wax Candle Company. And then I think these three are from Etsy, but I cannot tell you. So I apologize. This is a Canson Universal sketchbook, and the process for, I guess, selecting the sketchbook was I just needed something. Our graphic design program really encouraged us to do non-computer sketching. So I picked this up, and I used to do a lot of sketching in high school and college, and I hadn't in a long time, but we dove right in with just colored pencils and pencil. So just cute little doodles to try to get back into the swing of sketching. So, little candy corn. I actually, fun fact, hate candy corn. Sorry. Controversial opinion, I know. But yeah, just not a big fan of candy corn, but I think they're super cute to draw. So we have a little candy corn guy there in colored pencil. Really just trying to get a feel for drawing again after a long time. Then I did kind of like a little, I don't know, Scooby-Doo mystery van with some pumpkins. It was clearly fall 2021 when I was doing this. So yeah, again, colored pencils are not really my medium of choice, and just trying to understand them better at this time and figure out how they worked. I'm still not great at them, but it was fun to practice, and it really got me back into drawing after a long time. Then this is just a quick little pencil sketch. If you are a quilter, then you probably know the Alexander Henry fabrics. I think that's the creator's name, but they do a ton of spooky Halloween fabrics, and this is a little witch that is on one of those fabrics. So just trying to practice my figure drawing very loosely with proportions, and using that as a reference image. So I have that, and then this is where the ugly sketchbook really starts to get ugly. So I was trying to sketch a bowl that I have, and I was not remotely pleased with the results. So I kind of had a little process there and then just kind of gave up and didn't go any further with that because I got super frustrated. But you know what? That's the point to me of an ugly sketchbook, is trying things and then leaving the pages unfinished. It doesn't matter. And that's also why I tend to buy the spiral bound sketchbooks for my ugly sketchbook, is because they're a lot cheaper. They typically have way more pages, and I have no guilt about, one, not using the backside, and two, leaving stuff unfinished. For me, that's a really big part of having a sketchbook, especially an ugly sketchbook, is to just use the paper, not care. So low price point, and lots of pages is what I look for in my ugly sketchbooks. Then you're going to see a lot of this in this sketchbook. It's just pen tests. It's just me trying to see which pens are which, what I like, and there's no rhyme or reason. And again, I like ugly sketchbooks for that. This actually was an exercise for my graphic design course. It was about thinking outside the box. So we had to draw those 9 dots and then connect them somehow. I think we had to do like one singular line or something, or connect as many as we could. So again, just little exercises and some pen tests that can be done in something that you don't care a whole lot about. Again, another pen test. Well, this is a Tombow marker. Trying to pick out colors for my daily bullet journal or weekly. So not exciting, but I don't mind it being in here because I don't really care about the sketchbook, and none of it is a finished product. This was, I don't remember why I was doing this, but this was an attempt at drawing trees, which I still struggle with to this day because I don't practice it that much, and I really need to. So yeah, just a halfway finished, not very great attempt at drawing trees, and that's fine. So I was reading the book The Fifth Element at this time, and this is one of the scenes that was described in the book, and I was just attempting to like kind of visualize that scene and playing around with shadow and light and just trying to use that as a prompt for some drawing practice. So again, not finished, totally fine with it. Just a quick little pencil sketch. More marker tests, nothing too exciting. So this is just some little, I think I saw something like this on Pinterest and then just wanted to do a couple little like plant doodles. Not great at drawing plants or trees because I don't practice them that often, so this was a little bit of practice, and then some background colors with my Tombow markers. So I really actually like this spread a lot. So I find it really helpful to do little pen sketches like this in a sketchbook where there's no pressure. It's not going into a finished product, but I'm still practicing those skills and getting down like those organic shapes. Like I really like how this one turned out. And so I don't have to put any pressure on myself to just kind of work through that process. And I think I may have done these in ink first without pencil. That's another really important skill that I like to practice in a sketchbook. Shocking. More pencil, pen, marker. Oh, I think these were the Archer acrylograph marker pen things. So testing those out. All right, I'm going to start skipping the pages with pen tests because there's so many. But this was a little practice drawing mushrooms. Those are one of the more organic shapes that I can draw quite well. So I really like drawing those. And on this one, discovering that the Tombow markers really like to bleed somewhat. So they're not my favorite to use for finished art projects, but I will use them in my bullet journal just because I don't care that much about it being perfect, but also pen tests. A little coffee doodle. Again, I think this was bullet journal related, like a theme for the month. I really love all these little sketches. I used Pinterest as a reference, and I'll do another video in talking about why I rely pretty heavily on reference images, but that's for another time. But these are some little doodles for a coffee theme, and then I've got the washi tape that I planned to use there, and then the different combos up there. But really love this, super cute, and I think it turned out really good, especially the little coffee cup. So skipping a couple of pages because I let a friend use my sketchbook because again, it's a ugly sketchbook and I don't care. This was a little sketch. I was attempting to do another theme for a bullet journal and decided against it because I didn't like how this came out. So we quit halfway through and that's fine. All right, now we get into the more fun stuff and slightly the more like serious stuff. Serious in the way that I started taking my sketchbook a little bit more seriously, as well as like dedicating time to creating art. So this is a sketch, and some of the following pages are more practice sketches of a photograph of an alleyway that I took. I really love alleyways. I find them beautiful. I love all of the lines and the proportions and the perspective that you get when you're looking down like a straight alleyway. You've got those nice parallel lines. So I was playing around with this because I had discovered urban sketching and that like drawing buildings was a thing. So this was attempt number 1. So let's look at attempt number 2. So I went backwards here and decided to do a pencil sketch first. So the very first one I did was that pen one you just saw. Then I worked on it in pencil. Didn't really love that result. So instead of erasing, we went to a new page because again, this is a sketchbook that we don't care a whole lot about. And I like having the whole process in my sketchbook without erasing. I like to be able to see all of my attempts on most things. Like some things I will still erase on, but I can see the growth in doing this same sketch of this particular alleyway over and over and over again. So I added more detail this time. I used some different vanishing points there, trying to figure out which ones worked for this particular photograph of an alleyway. And then again, same subject here. I did pencil first and then went in with pen. I feel like I can tell a difference that I made some small improvements every single time that I did this. But I can also see other little areas that I need to improve, like I got a little off right here with the roof of this building. And if I can find the picture of this, I will pop it up over here. But still working on this same alleyway to just try to get some of those perspective skills down that I had not used in a long time. And so this is the final sketch that I did in this sketchbook of this alleyway. I've not created a finished piece of this. I went on to other things, but I still may come back to this because I just obsessively love alleyways. I find them super beautiful, but I was very happy with this. And if you compare it to the first sketch that I did, there's drastic improvement. So let me see if I can. So if we go back, here's the first one, and there's the finished one. So you can see kind of with the building, trying to get those lines right, trying to figure out where the telephone pole goes. I mean, it's still not perfect, but it was a lot of growth over a short period of time, and having these earlier sketches to reference back to, I think really helped with this sketch. There's certainly still things that I would like change and improve, but from where I started to this one, I think is a fantastic just reference for me to remind myself that I can get better if I practice things, that art is not just a natural talent that people are instantly good at. It's something that takes work and practice. And clearly, the more that I practiced, the better I got at making that sketch. So I really like having all of those and not erasing and leaving them unfinished when I'm just kind of done with it and not trying to perfect that one page, but moving on and giving myself a fresh start and fixing the mistakes that I noticed that I was making in the previous one in the next sketch that I did. So I like having that in my sketchbook. Again, none of these are finished. I don't want them to be. I like seeing the full process. And it just makes me really happy to be able to see those improvements page over page. So another little alleyway sketch. My main goal here was to like work on a cobbled paved street. So working on perspective, working on how to get those bricks to look right. So that's another challenge for me to work on, but I like how this turned out. And even looking at the sketches of the other alleyway that I did, I can see that I improved and it helped this sketch be more cohesive as well. And then apparently I decided to just work on shading a little bit with some graphite, practicing those cylindrical shapes and perspective in that way. And I have several different graphite pencils, so looking at the darkness and shading in each one of those. So a little pencil test. All right, here again, we have our very first attempt at drawing this. It's a bookshop in New York City. I took a photo of it when I was there. I think this was a couple of years ago, but I visited the store multiple times, so I don't exactly remember when the photo is from. But drawing this bookshop, and this was the first attempt. So just a really messy sketch to try to get down like placement, if I wanted to have these buildings in the background or not, if I wanted to have this corner or not. And you'll see some little notes, like little arrows to myself about like this needs to be pushed out and this needs to go in a little bit more. So again, first sketch, first attempt, just a really messy, quick drawing. And then this was the second attempt. So you can see a vast difference. This was much more of a thumbnail sketch, much more completed, and I did end up turning this one into a painting that was in a gallery show. So I really like, again, having this process of the very first to the thumbnail, semi-finished, to the painting is on, it's actually framed in my office, but I'll pop in a little picture right here of what that looks like. So I actually did a couple different paintings of this and ended up going with a much more like loose ink and wash style than the fully rendered version, but I actually still like this thumbnail sketch. It looks kind of like a, I don't know, New Yorker cartoon to me. I just like the black and gray, so I really enjoy doing thumbnail sketches, and I have a lot of those in my current sketchbook. But so you can see a big difference from the first one to this one, and it was a lot of fun to do, and I like how it turned out. All right, this one you can kind of barely see because of the marker underneath. And that gets to why I switched to a different notebook in a little bit. So this is the first attempt at sketching a bookshop. It's the Vermont Bookshop. And this is the second attempt. So this is the thumbnail sketch. I actually did end up painting this, but I did a different perspective. I went back and got a better picture of it that's straight on. I just didn't love painting it this way. I wanted both of these architectural details in the finished painting, so you can't see it over here because there wasn't space, and I don't even know if I had it in the picture. But I wanted to do it straight on, but I still really actually love this one, and I do have prints of it. I did a scan of it, and then I altered the colors in Photoshop, so I have it in a couple different colors, and it just makes me smile. I like these really kind of cartoony sketches. I think they're super cute. So that was first attempt to our second attempt. So then after watching several urban sketching videos on YouTube, I decided to pull out watercolors. So I played around with watercolors a little bit. This was swatching all of them. And then I very shortly stopped using this sketchbook because it is sketch paper. It is not great for watercolors. But I tested them out in here. So again, this one might be a little bit hard to see, but this is the straight-on version of the Vermont Bookshop, and this was trying to do everything without picking up my pencil. So one single line for everything, so you can kind of see how all of the windows connect right through there. Maybe a little hard to see on camera, but I was watching a YouTube video, and that was one of the skills that they were practicing. So single line drawing. I don't really love this style, but it was fun to practice. So in this sketch, I was practicing shading and lighting, trying to work on my hatching and cross hatching, which I have not done in a long time. This is an image from a picture that I took in San Juan. It's a really pretty door. San Juan has some gorgeous architecture and just cityscapes. So working on that. I did not love how the shadow came out here, but still good practice. So this is, I believe, the Fargo Theater in North Dakota. It's a picture that I had on my phone of some cool architecture. I really, really love this sign, and I'd like to go back and do this one again, do a more finished sketch of it, but I had fun just trying to get that lettering right, trying to get the suspension right for that sign. So this was a little sketch that I did sitting at a coffee shop, just the things that I could see out the window, some different architectural details, as well as like my coffee cup, and just kind of having some fun playing around in a sketchbook and doing some little thumbnail sketches without really a finished product in mind. So really fun afternoon or morning in a coffee shop. So this page is where the pretty sketchbook comes into play. So let's switch over to that one just for a minute. So this is my more finished / pretty-ish sketchbook for May through July of this year. So just a little cover image. Again, I went with a spiral sketchbook, but this one is watercolor paper. So this is, let's find out. I think this is a Strathmore. Nope, I didn't leave myself any clues as to what this might be. And again, stickers are from random, usually shops around town that I pick up. That one is from Etsy, but I could not tell you where because I've had it for forever. That one is from a business in New York. So yeah, I apologize for not knowing my stickers. So I picked this sketchbook up when I was in Rhode Island, and they had, well, I was in Providence, and so there is a couple different art stores in Providence. So I grabbed it at one of the art stores because it is watercolor paper, and I knew that if I tried to do watercolors on this, it would go very poorly. So this is actually the view from my hotel room window, and I have a more finished version of that in here in a second. So let's look at a few pages in this, and then we'll go back to the ugly one, and you'll kind of see how they work in tandem, because I do typically have two sketchbooks going at once. So this is, I believe that's maybe the Omni Hotel. I could be wrong, but this was a view from a waterfront park that I was sitting in Providence. I had gotten this sketchbook as well as some new pens, which I discovered that the new pen was not waterproof. So I was using, I think, the Tombos here. Yes, what does my note to myself say? Must clean the Tombos, because I went over the non-waterproof pen. So I ended up using like a little bit of graphite there to do some shading, but playing around with urban sketching out in the wild for one of the first times instead of just using reference images that I had. So this was kind of the kickoff for this sketchbook. Oh, and it's Waterplace Park. Look, I wrote it down. Good job, me. So second attempt at that, and I was a little bit more careful with the non-waterproof pen, and did a second version of, so it is the Omni Hotel from as seen from Waterfront Park, and there's another building right here. So fun little sketch. I was having breakfast in the park and just kind of hanging out and did this little sketch. Now you can see where we were going with this. So again, view from the hotel, and then this is the same view but with watercolors that I could not do in this sketchbook. So I really enjoyed drawing these buildings. It was a great little view. There's a little park there and just a nice little way to remember the trip. All right, we'll put that one to the side, look at a few more of these, and then switch over to the nice sketchbook. So this is my first attempt at drawing a dog. It was not great. I struggle with dogs and cats and animals and anything organic. I great at buildings and perspective, struggle with humans and dogs and any living life form. So it's decent, but that's, again, ugly sketchbook. No one really ever needs to see this, but why not put it on YouTube? Then I was doing a little bit of work with graphite, working on some blueberries, just trying to get a feel for those organic shapes and shading with graphite. I am still not great at that, so it's still a work in progress. So I decided maybe I would try cartoon dogs. This one worked out a little bit better, and I pulled a reference, I think, from Pinterest, but yeah, still not loving doing animals, but it's fine. And here is the evidence for why I'm bad drawing. Well, it's not why. I don't know why I'm bad drawing people. Maybe because people are hard. But this is a book cover from a book that I was reading at the time. I forget the name of it, but just trying to draw. I thought because they were flat little cartoony people, they might be easier. They were not. But we made an attempt. But again, it's an ugly sketchbook. It doesn't need to be finished. So I don't love it, but it exists. We made an attempt. So this was a sketch for a piece that I actually did finish. So I will pop that up over here. So this is my best friend's spouse. He does a lot of skateboarding, so I thought it would be fun for his birthday to make a painting. And you may have seen on my Instagram his reaction to his painting. He really, really loved it. So this was the practice attempt. I chose this because many of the features of people that are very hard to do are obscured in this. You can't see his face because his head is down, so I didn't have to deal with that. His hands are in a reasonable shape to be able to draw, and then this hand was kind of curled into a fist. That's a little bit easier. And he's kind of straight up and down. There's a little perspective there being on the skateboard, but it was easier than other figures that I could find. And it was a still image. I stole it off of his Instagram. So that worked out really well. I had fun doing this. Then we have a very light little ice cream cone down here, and a cat in a window, again, trying to get better at those animal shapes. Still not fantastic, but decent attempt. So this was practice using, I want to say, I will try to link the video and go back and find it. But this was a YouTube video on how to practice figure drawing. Maybe Scottie Urban Sketch, something like that. I don't know. I forget whose video it was. But you can see from our first attempt to our second attempt of the same person, we did improve. That one was not great. Just trying to practice faces, figures. I could definitely see other areas that I could improve here, like her legs are a little too short, her head's a little too big. But getting better each time and not having to have a perfect finished piece that's colored in or anything like that. That's what I really like having this ugly sketchbook for. In the nice sketchbook, I do try to do more finished pieces because I kind of use it as an art journal, but I really just like being able to practice this. So then I have a few pages here where a friend did some stuff in the sketchbook, so I won't show you that. Then apparently I think this day I really didn't feel that awesome. So I wanted to just do something low effort, but still a little bit creative. So I grabbed a couple colored pencils that went together and just did some designs, just some doodles and shapes to kind of just give myself a little mental health break. So I don't love it. I don't hate it. It's not great, but it was a useful exercise at the time. All right. And then this is actually the last page in this sketchbook because while I was doing those last couple of pages, I was really working more in the nice sketchbook, so you'll see that in a minute. But after this, I decided that I just didn't want to use this sketchbook anymore. Its paper is just not great for marker or some of the other things I wanted to do. So I have my little pumpkins, and I don't know that I ever will finish those last few pages, but that's fine. All right, so we are back to the pretty-ish sketchbook. So I still, even though this is the like nicer one, there are still things in here that are unfinished, and I'm mostly fine with that. This sketchbook kind of became a little bit more of like travel sketching, and I think there is one piece that I actually finished in here, but you've seen this one. This was the view from the hotel in Providence. Then I did a little just watercolor study using different techniques in here. So just practicing with a new set of paints that I had to see kind of how they responded to mixing, to wet on wet, wet on dry. So again, this was, the other sketchbook is not watercolor paper. This one is, so I didn't want to use, you know, like a really nice piece of watercolor block. I wanted to just do this in a sketchbook. So not a finished piece that I would ever really do anything with, but good use of a sketchbook. So I really love Becky Cao. I will link her YouTube, and she does a lot of like daily little sketches like this and really like emphasizes doing a daily sketchbook practice with watercolors. So I was working on that, and I really had a lot of fun just like doing the books that I got from the library and just a little doodle of the watercolor swatching that I did on the previous page. So just like a little reminder of what my day was like. Same thing here, just another little daily sketch, a view of a church from the coffee shop, coffee, and a little popsicle because it was starting to warm up since it was May, so 62 degrees. So I like having this kind of like art journal, like daily sketching practice. I need to get back into this. I've not been as good at doing this. I just haven't had a lot of time and have a lot of other projects, but I just really love these little pages. They just make me so happy. So then I went on vacation, so a couple of little just kind of like thumbnail sketches of things that I did that day. So of course, seashells. I was at the beach, went to a Publix for the first time, had never been to one of those, and found some pistachio plant-based ice cream, which I had been looking for forever. I was very, very excited to find that. So just a nice little like memory journal of that day. Again, another little daily sketching page, really fun to do on vacation. I actually took my yoga mat down to the beach that day, and so I did some beach yoga, and I was not happy with my seashell from the previous day. So working on that a little bit more. And we had watermelon for lunch, so I did a quick little watermelon without an outline, just practicing with just using wet on wet there. So that was pretty fun. Then this is a page that I don't really love, but it's a sketchbook, so it's fine. I didn't feel like really doing anything except just random doodles, so I did some line work and filled some spaces in, and then I thought, let me just throw some water in those spaces and see how the colors mix. So I like some parts of it. I don't love, I think adding the green was a mistake, but it was a fun little afternoon. I think it was raining this day, so we didn't really go down to the beach or anything, but it was a good little indoor activity. Then this was another practice page. I was working on drawing the boardwalk that goes over the dunes on the beach, and I did not like how it turned out. So I gave myself lots of little notes and then just kind of filled the background of it in with a pink wash. So I don't mind that it's not perfect. I like that I have all of my little notes about how I can make it better, and I did work on a different boardwalk. I think that's in here in a second. Oh, just kidding. It was the very next page. So this is the boardwalk. It's not the first one I drew, but it was one that was a little further down, and it had this nice little awning pergola thing right there. So I like how this one turned out. I felt like it was a lot easier the second go round, and from like further away, the perspective was a little bit better. So just a cute little beach boardwalk over the dunes there. So if you follow me on Instagram, you may have seen this one in my stories, but this was just one of the beach houses that I could see from where I was sitting. So I did a quick little sketch of that. I really liked its like bright blue color and its little palm tree right there. Again, practicing drawing those things that I'm not that great at, like palm trees. So, or any trees really, but I like how that one turned out. This was a fun little sketch to do. Again, I think it was raining this day as well. So sitting inside, doing what I could see from our beach house. Another little daily test here, a sriracha bottle. I accidentally spilled sriracha, was not happy, but reason to draw the cute little bottle. Then I was testing out the Jelly Roll pen on a couple different watercolors to see how it would show up on like darker colors. And then working on starting the garden. We were a little late in the season, but better late than never. So then this one is actually from the beginner sketching class that I took with Becky. I'll have her information linked down below, but these were, well, so this I did in the morning before that sketching class at the coffee shop, a little piece of zucchini bread. And so this is what we did for the class, was a beer mug. There's Becky's information right there, but again, I'll have it down below. But this was really fun. I learned a lot, even though I have been doing watercolor and sketching. So many good tips and tricks. I highly recommend her classes. And she's just a wonderful teacher with a wealth of knowledge. So highly recommend checking out her stuff. So then I bought some gouache. So playing around with a new media. So I really like that they are opaque, that you can cover things up. So did a little practice color wheel and then some swatching and mixing to see what I could do with those. So this was my very first attempt at doing gouache. So this was just a view off of our back deck. Sunset, so not terrible. I really like how the trees turned out, but I'm not as happy with the clouds. But again, for a sketchbook, I'm pretty happy about it. I'm glad I tried it. And I also was trying to make myself use both sides of the page. I don't love doing that in a spiral bound that I've found, but that's fine. It is what it is. And then we have half of a daily sketch here. I got one done earlier in the day and then nothing else happened, but just a little sketch of my fabric scissors because I really need to start doing more fabric-y things, and we just haven't. We have not had the motivation. But quick little daily sketch. Then we have another unfinished piece. So weeding the garden, did not get around to watercoloring that. I just had a lot going on. This was in June. I had a lot of work stuff happening, so we kind of lost our daily sketching practice around this time, but that's fine. Then I was working on some more practice clouds, and I just like never removed the washi tape. I thought I was going to finish these. I was going to work on these more, and I just didn't. So that's fine. But I like how those clouds turned out. So just practicing with gouache and doing clouds. Then another little daily sketch. I was transplanting my basil plants and packing to go on a work trip, and then I did not get a third one in there that day. But I like how this one turned out. You know, those like little seed pods, like the Jiffy starter pack. I always do those, especially for like things like basil and tomatoes. So I got like the roots coming out right there. I really love how that one turned out. So view from the airport, hanging out at the airport while I was waiting for my flight. I absolutely love these little Biscoff cookies, so I thought that would be really fun to draw. And I like drawing food packaging and foods, so that one makes me happy. And that one actually is going to be available as a print. So I did not do a lot of sketching on my work trip. Made it back, had another trip like almost immediately afterwards. So this was a trip to DC for work, and my flight kept getting progressively delayed. So I had plenty of time to sit at the airport and do some sketching. So I sketched the plane, a little truck and workers, and then my airport dinner because we were there that long. So it was not my favorite day because of the travel delays, but I got a lot of really good sketching in, and I really like how the plane and the clouds here especially turned out. So all in all, not a bad use of time when you're stuck at the airport. So then on my work trip, again, this kind of turns into like a little bit of a journal. I got stuck in DC for 24 hours because of all of the delays on my first flight. I could not get my connection and get to the place I needed to for work. So I ended up in DC, and as I was headed to the airport the next morning, this was kind of the sunrise near the Washington Monument. It was super, super pretty, so I did a really quick painting of that. And then I had dinner with a friend and just like a funny little quote from our dinner. So finally made it to my work meeting. So this is a ridiculous painting that probably makes sense to no one except me and my friend. So she obsessively loves tacos and had this picture on her phone of the saddest taco that she ever saw because all of the filling had moved to one side and like fallen out. So I painted a little sad taco for her, and I have it as prints, but I really just made that for her. I was at the airport on my way back when I was working on this. It was just something to do in the airport. It was like my flight wasn't until like 9 p.m. So I was just kind of hanging out at the airport, too tired to do work things. So a good time to do some sketching, and it makes me laugh. Like, is it not the saddest taco that you have ever seen? So this is our sad taco. So this is another gouache practice. This is hiking up to Mount Philo, which is a little short hiking trail. So it was really misty and foggy, so I was trying to capture that. It was my first time like attempting to paint misty settings, but I really like how the hiking trail and all the plants turned out. Just a really cute little summertime gouache painting. And then this is the last page in this sketchbook. Even though this was around July when I finished this, I was already in the mood for spooky season, and I just did some millennial humor. This is my millennial woes. So if you are a millennial and you know the struggle that is like worrying about our retirement, because we may not get to do that. But I just did a little gravestone and a pumpkin because I was very much in like a fall mood, was ready for fall vibes. So I hope that you enjoyed that look into my sketchbook and understanding a little bit about my process. I would love to know if you keep multiple sketchbooks or if you have everything all in one, or what your process looks like. So definitely leave me a note down in the comments, and don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you did enjoy it, and I will see you in the next one.